Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Kitchens, TechTarget's executive publisher. I have a unique vantage point on the marketing landscape, running 150 global technology sites that uses content to engage an audience through organic search, and also operating B2B Technology's largest direct marketing platform. I know many of you are trying to figure out exactly how to navigate through these new times. So thought I would share some insights today that might be useful to you that we've learned along the way. From a content coverage perspective, TechTarget has never used generalized news as a hook for audience engagement. Instead, we're always focused on exactly what enterprise technology buyers need to know. We have spent a lot of time covering this topic, and we are finding that buyers have a real need for actionable and helpful information to figure out what they need to do today. So some of the top performing content that we're putting out right now is really focused on things like download guides and planning suggestions, and overall how to help them navigate these very quick challenges. At the same time, our content plan is also very focused on strategic initiatives that we know buyers still care about. So you can see that we're still writing a lot of content that really have nothing to do with today's broader landscape. In fact, of all of the content that we put out just this week, less than 15% of it had any direct relationship to the broader landscape that is being faced today. Now, why is that? So first of all, remember that it wasn't too long ago that our audience was setting their final plans for 2020. And IT and business leaders were already navigating a very complex and transforming landscape. In particular, they were really focused on digitizing and the digital experience that they can provide their customers as well as their employees. Every year we do an IT priority study. We've been doing this for probably 15 or 16 years. And we look at the relative interest of technologies and where they fit within the investment plan of our buying audience. So just a few months ago, buyers talked to us about their top strategic initiatives, and digital transformation was at the top of the list. In fact, 66% of our audience said that this year was going to be the peak spending for digital transformation projects. With that, they were going to have to increase areas like security, where risk management had to be forefront across the board because they were investing in more cloud services, which was pushing data to the edge. And in particular, speaking of data, 1/3 of our audience said that they were going to be increasing their investment on AI and machine learning technologies. That was a huge encouragement for us to look at the industry and say that they were really starting to think about ways that they could add more value to their business, maybe creating new applications and things that were going to help drive the business forward with heavier use of automation and use of data at their heart of their infrastructure. So these were just things that our audience was telling us very recently, and it's something that we've had to continue to stay focused on as we build out our content plans. Now, buyers are faced with new challenges, and these are things that were never foreseen. So they're looking at employee productivity and remote worker support. They have to make sure they have collaboration technologies available for their organizations. They are potentially seeing some customer transition, maybe consolidation, and this economic fluctuation has meant they had to be really focused on the resiliency of their business as they've thought about how to respond to the landscape. And given that, certain technologies have certainly emerged as immediate imperatives. These are technologies that buyers have to invest in order to navigate this landscape. That's why we're seeing things like video conferencing and secure remote access, identity solutions, virtualizing desktops, and disaster recovery software to be very top of mind right now. If you take a look at Google's search traffic, this really tells an interesting story. And again, as a publisher who looks at content creation, that's all about how to engage organically, we spend a lot of time looking at the trends in Google. And just last week, when we looked at some of these top strategic initiatives, the things that buyers told us not that long ago they were focusing on, you can see that some traffic is showing a distraction. Here are some keywords that, as of last week, had seen over a 20% decline in global search volume across Google than they had just at the beginning of February. Our own audience kind of shows the same thing. When we look at audience researching from a technology perspective, what we did was take a look at a time frame in October. We wanted to make sure we were comparing a time that didn't have anything to do with the end of year or any sort of traffic shifts that might have played a role as around the holidays. So back in October, we took a look at the top traffic terms to our network. And you can see here, these greatly reflect those strategic initiatives that buyers told us they were investing in. A lot of traffic coming in from cloud and BI analytics, and machine learning. We had data center networking incredibly high, and systems management, especially as buyers are now looking to manage systems that are outside their own data center. And threat management and intelligence were extremely high from a traffic perspective. When we took a look at this last week, we did see relative traffic engagement to those technologies that are more short-term imperatives start to bubble up. So that's really where secure remote access and team collaboration software and unified communications is getting a relatively more interest among our audience than they did before. But at the same time, these terms in the middle, they're seeing extreme consistency. So ERP and supply chain, data center networking, networking and security, again, systems management and cloud computing, all of these are technologies that are enabling the digitization, and they're also enabling technologies for the immediate imperatives. You can't have thousands of employees working from home and accessing team collaboration software if your network and the network security access that you have set up is not up to code. Or you have situations where now businesses have to operate in Cyber Monday mode. They're operating at the highest peak of their website traffic, and they aren't able to do that if they had systems in place in a fixed data center. Instead, that's where cloud computing really comes in to help them with these bursting traffic dynamics. All of these things are coming together to really, again, reinforce the digital strategy of our audience as they think both about short-term needs as well as the long-term strategic initiatives of their organization. Because again, remember, even though there might be a dip in traffic, and even though there might be a distraction among buyers, when we look back at that global search demand in Google, we can still see that the behavior of our audience is indicating that they are still researching these technologies. So looking back at those same keywords that I showed earlier that might have a decline in global search volume right now, these are terms that are still incredibly strong from an overall volume perspective. They're still driving a lot of traffic. So big data gets over 550,000 global searches as of last week. AI, 470,000, backup, 338,000, IoT, 330,000. So even amongst this shifting dynamic, you can still see that buyers are out there researching very strategic initiatives that go far beyond their current situation. Now also within TechTarget, we're always trying to look at content investments and audience engagement initiatives and trying to think about relative resource allocation. I mean, how much content should we put against one technology versus another? And how does that translate into the demand of our audience when we think about our email response rates and how we're going to engage? So when I took a look last week at the relative audience demand, we know some of these new technologies are getting more traffic, but how does that compare to the overall look at topical engagement across our network? And this was a really important exercise that we did, because I think it reinforced that the content plan that we were putting forth was really the right way to go. We still needed to focus on some of those short-term technology imperatives, but relatively speaking, 3/4 of the traffic that TechTarget's getting is still tied to those strategic technology initiatives and not just the short-term needs. So what does that mean? In a changing market landscape, we know that buyers are really focused, obviously, on the health and the safety of their employees. They have to make sure that their employees are productive, but they're really focused on the resiliency of their company. They're really trying to make sure that their company navigates through this successfully. And they know that technology is a critical tool. It's going to enable them to not only service the new employee and customer demands, but it's also going to help them engage new ones. You know, if they're seeing an area where they might have a depressed engagement on one technology, they have to solve it through another. They have to be looking at new applications, new ways to drive revenue, and overall, technology is going to be incredibly important. So with that, they need their partners and their vendors to be successful as well. And they're really looking to all of you to make sure that they can understand the product portfolios you offer, how do these things fit in with the overall landscape, and how can they be successful using you as their partner. So from a marketing perspective, how do we make sure that we're marrying the buyer needs and ensuring that you are also positioning messages and content the most effective way in these uncharted waters. So Kelly DeMore is our Chief Content Officer, and she actually put together some tips and some lessons that we've learned so far, and she's doing a fantastic job mobilizing our editors and our marketers together to make sure that we're following some of these. I thought I would share these with you today as potentially useful information as you move forward as well. Now, some of these are not, rocket science. There's nothing that you would expect to necessarily not have been thinking on your own. But I think it's really important to know that as an industry, we're sort of coming together with some of these commonalities. In particular, we want to make sure we're messaging in a practical and a positive way. You don't have to reference specifics around what's happening. Everyone knows what's going on. And instead, you can use things like, if you find yourself working from home, or do you need to focus your time wisely? And really focus on the pain point that the user might have, and then how your technology can be helpful in making sure that they can get through with this. At the same time, we really want to be careful that we're not using this position to exploit, right? We're not exploiting the situation. We really don't want to feign empathy and then quickly go to a pitch or message from a position of fear. What we think is really important is that we all take a look at our business and think about what value we offer that we might need to emphasize right now, and how our brand or solution truly brings value to the situation and helps buyers through it. So look, we have a new reality. That seems to be what a lot of people are saying. I'm sure for many of you though, your old reality still exists. Things might be changing rapidly, but you're still trying to hit aggressive goals. You still have to generate revenue, which means you have to support your sellers in the field. You might have a new media mix that's at play here, and you have to shift things around. So process and execution matters more than ever. Buyers are going to be shifting their needs fast, and you need to stay on top of what's changing. And you might be doing this with fewer staff or fewer staff hours, and perhaps you're looking at less funds or less funds that can be diverted in different ways. So what we're really encouraging our partners are the same things that we do here at TechTarget. We really think it's worth applying energy right now to support data-driven marketing and using behavior to drive activities, and helping your sellers figure out how to use relevance and personalization in their outreach and really adapt their strategies to what the buyer is telling them to do. This might mean you want to address some back-burnered processes or systems, and the ability to connect the dots in the data. How do you append your CRM with current buying needs of these users as opposed to just what you knew about them before? And ultimately, how do you make sure that in a variable situation, when you can't just use an audience's persona to target them accordingly, how do you use the information that's at your disposal to really know your audience and engage with them appropriately? Now at TechTarget, for any of you who are customers and might be using Priority Engine, you know that we have adopted a contact level behavioral targeting in all of our email outreach. This has been a very important tool for TechTarget to navigate through these times, to make sure that we're not seeing a decline in response rates of our audience. And we do it this way. We look at the individual behavior of a company and the buyer behavior of the activity and the people that are actually doing that research. And we target them at a contact level to make sure that we're engaging with each account and each person individually based on their needs. Because yes, some of these companies might be doing research on these broader technologies, but they're also researching those strategic technology initiatives that we've been talking about. So how do you use audience buying team information to know who to target within an organization with what messaging? There are going to be some of them that you're going to want to focus on more of the short-term needs, and there are going to be other members of the buying team that you're going to be able to engage with these longer-term strategic initiatives. And knowing who to contact at any given time is a really key element to making sure that you're engaging audiences properly and keeping your response rates high. Now, hopefully some of this information has been helpful. It's really important that together as partners, we collaborate and communicate and making sure that we're navigating through all this change as an industry. I can assure you at TechTarget, it is business as usual as much as it can be in these unusual times. We're going to continue to focus on an editorial approach that identifies buyers and helping them figure out the information they need right now. And then a solution portfolio that's going to help all of you as marketers navigate through your current needs. We are here to help. We want to make sure that you have what you need to be successful. Please continue to engage with us and reach out. And if there's anything we can do to help, we're happy to do so. Wishing you the best through all these times. Thank you for your time today and wishing you lots of safety and health in the weeks to come. Thank you.